So we were doing the verse number 7, 8, and 9, and we have completed the Sankara Bhashyas, where we categorized the karma tyagas in verse number 7 and 8, where there are some people who are not doing the karma or decide to forego the rituals which they are supposed to do out of either moha, because of faulty understanding, or because of consideration that this is painful. They do not want to do it. So one is tamasika tyaga, the other one is rajasika tyaga, and they don't get the desired results. What are these? The jnana lakshana, that moksha, that self-realization. But in the verse number 9, then he discusses that there are other people who do not stop doing their activities, their duties. They do discharge them, but without getting entangled. So they do sangam tyaktva phalamcha, both these two phalanicha, by doing sacrifice of these two limiting factors, these constraints, which will not give us full spiritual results. These people continue to do the work, but they do not get entangled. That is what Sankaracharya explained in a very simple way. Now, Madhusudana has a bit of an academic discussions to offer in verse number 7. There's a big debate he introduces. This debate is a response to the argumentation by the Buddhists, the Jains, and the Sankhya philosophers, who believe per se many of the Vedic rituals are not free from some kind of a problem. Why? Because there are certain Vedic rituals where there is some mention of rituals where some violence is involved, like animal sacrifice. So if you do these kinds of rituals, even though they are nitya karmas, like Darsha and Purnamasa, where there is a Agnisomya Yaga, which requires animal sacrifice, if you do it, you are committing some kind of a violent act. And therefore, these activities cannot give you peace of mind. It's much better that you either turn into Bhakti Yoga or into Raja Yoga. You follow the path of yoga, and that's what they would argue. And he's dealing with this at great lengths. I will give my personal opinion in the end of it, but we need to understand the point of view. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano na upapadyate moha tasya parityagas tamasah parikirtitaha. This is what the verse says, that the nitya karmas can never be dumped. You cannot renounce your daily ritualistic responsibilities and duties. However, you can do that because of a faulty understanding, and that is a tamasika tyaga. And if you so do, it doesn't give you any results. Now, let's look at how Madhusudana elaborates and explains this. Kamyasya karmano antakarna suddhi hetutva abhavena. What are the kamya karmas? Having a house or a building, or you want to do a putrishti yaga because you want a handsome son, or you do a kariri yaga because you want rain for your country. You want to go to Swarga Loka and therefore you want to do certain rituals. All these are kamya karma. Kamyasya karmanaha antakarna suddhi hetutva abhavena. Now, because these are kamya karmas, even if you do them, obviously, because it's kamya, you cannot do kamana tyaga. You are doing it. There are people who argue that even kamya karmas you can do without kamana, and that's good enough. But here they're saying that the purpose of doing kamya karma is obviously you have some desire, and therefore, antakarna suddhi, purification of your mind, cannot be the stated objective of these sort of rituals. Bandha hetutvena cha. You have phalakamana. You want a house, you want a car, you want a lovely son. These are phalakamanas, desire for results, and therefore they bind you up. Those are bhatvad, and therefore they are full of problems. Bandha nibritti hetu bodharthina, the people who are looking for an escape from the bondage of karma. That is what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Kriyamanaha tyagaha upapadyate evaha. And therefore, kamya karma, you should be able to sacrifice. This tyaga upapadyate. It is logical. Niyatasya tu nityasya karmanaha, however, when it comes to tyaga of nitya karmas, which we are supposed to do every day for purifying our internal consciousness, suddhi hetutvena, by doing these activities, we purify ourselves externally and internally. Adoshasya, because these are having suddhi hetuta, and therefore they are adosha. Adosha means dosha rahita. They don't have any problem. They are free from limitations. Sanyasaha, tyagaha. Sanyasa means tyaga here. Mumukshunam antakarana suddharthinam. Who is the mumukshu? Who wants to get self knowledge? He wants to get liberation. And obviously, he has to purify himself. So, he is antakarana suddharthi. Of those people, na upapadyate, such kind of nitya karma tyaga is not tenable, cannot be justified. How? Sastra yukti bhyam, either with the help of logic or by quoting certain, Vedic textual statements or vidhis or injunctions. Tasya antakarna suddhyartham avasya anustheyatvat. Because these kinds of activities help us purify ourselves, and therefore they are avasyam anustheyam. That kind of karma, we should definitely do it. Tathaja uktam prak. It has been said in chapter 6, Arurukyor munir yogam karma karanam uchyate. The person who is trying to establish himself in a state of equanimity, not yet there. So he's still a karma adhikari. He's still ascending the plane. He's on the staircase of spiritual ascension. So he still has to do his work. And that work itself, if he is doing it without any craving, without any attachment, will purify his internal self. So arurukyur munir yogam karma karanam uchyate. So for the one who is still walking up the staircase towards self-purification, that kind of a arurukya, he is interested to go to the top, he should do his nishkama karma yoga, ishvara arapana buddhya, with having dedication to God. That is how he's completing the sentence and explaining the verse number 7. Madhusudana Saraswati. Now he brings in the arguments of the Sankhya Mata, who believe any of these ritualistic actions are not free from some kind of immorality or moral limitations. More appropriately, some kind of moral conflict, because you're going to kill an animal for some kind of a Vedic ritual, and why should you do it? Even though it's nitya karma, so he's saying anything, whether it's nitya or kamya, should be dumped if there is any limitation. It sounds like a very rational argument. Let's get into it. No. Dosavatvam kamyasya eva nityasya api. How do you say that only kamya karma has dosha? Why? Because of phala kamana. Because we have craving for results, and therefore kamya karmas have some limitations. Nitya karmas don't have. Please don't talk like that. I'll show you where they have limitations. Where are they? Then he answers, Darsha Punna Masa Jyotishtamadher. So there is this 3-4 yagas he's mentioning. One is Darsha Punna Masa. There's a whole set of yagas or rituals you have to do. One on, you have this new moon day and you have this full moon day. And then you have Anuyaja, Prayaja. There are certain intermediate rituals you have to do. Now, in the course of this Darsha Purnamasa, it can be Kamya as well as Nitya. You might do it for Swarga, but you can also do it for internal purification. But any which way, there is a Agni Somya, which is one part of it, one Anga, whereas there is a need for an animal sacrifice. Okay? He's trying to say this. Jyotishtomader brihi paswadi hingsa mishritattvena. Now, you want to make purodasha. Purodasha is like a rice cake which is made with milk. Now, if you are the person who is doing this yaga, you cannot make it. You need to be married. Your wife will have to, bring the milk, milk the cow, and stuff like that. There are certain ritual requirements giving an important position to the wife. Now, this milk cake, rice powder and milk mix, and you make a cake, and then you will make it, and then you will split it into pieces, and you will offer it in the fire ritual. That is what broadly it is all about. Now, here, how do you have this rice cake? First, you have paddy, right? So you have to remove the whole thing and get the fresh white rice, and then you will have to hammer it, and in the sledge hammer or whatever, and then you will make some kind of powder kind of substance, and you cook it with milk, and you will get a cake. Now, that is called purodasha. Now, brihin avahanti, there is a Vedic injunction. So, that dhinki, as they call in Eastern India. So, you put that and you hammer those paddy to separate the bran and everything, and then the baitusha, as they call it in Sanskrit, the chaff, and then you have the rice taken out. Now, the fear there is that in the paddy, you have small insects. They are anusize. There are a lot of living beings which are there. When you are hitting this bruhi, even the jivatmas, which are there in the plants, and they come into the brihi. So when you're hammering them, which are there part of this brihi, there is some life force. Isn't it suffering? You're hammering it, you're chopping the trees, there is some kind of violence there. Okay? And therefore he's saying there is some violence. And then Agni Shomyam Pasumalavheta, you will have to make an animal sacrifice in Agni Shomya Yaga. Ityadi Visesa Vidhi Gocharatvat. There are special injunctions mentioned in the Vedic text for Darsha Purnamasa. This is a ritual titled Darsha Purnamasa. There's a whole set of angas or sub rituals you have to do. And there is some scope for violence, and violence cannot be good. Why? Na hinsyat sarva bhutani, ma hinsyat sarva bhutani. You should never practice violence towards anyone. That is a general Vedic injunction. Are you not contradicting that general Vedic injunction by doing these rituals where there is commitment of some sort of a violent act? That is the doubt. It is samanya nishedhasya. There is a general nishedha. There is a general rule. No violence at all, my friends. When there is a general rule, if you indulge in some kind of violence, you are violating it, and therefore it's limited, morally limited. There are certain moral conflictual situations. Tad itara paratvam iti sampratam bhinna vishayatvena vidhi nisedhayor abadhena eva samavesha sambhavat. What he's trying to say is that the whole question is there is a general statement that don't practice violence at all. That's a general statement. And then there is a special act which is mentioned that if you do Dasa Purnamasa, you have to make an animal sacrifice. And both are there in this text. Okay, and they are coexisting. One is a special purpose activity, the other one is a general moral principle. Both are there, and therefore, nisedhanahi purushasya anartha hetu hingsa avihitam nya natu kratvartha sa iti vidhina cha kratvartha sa iti avihitam natu anartha hetu anartha hetu na iti tatha cha kratupakarakattva purushartha hetu tvayor ekatra sambhavat kratvarthapi हिंसा निषिद्धा एव इति हिंसा युक्तम दर्श पूर्णमास ज्योतिष्ठमादि सर्वम दुष्टमेव. Is making an academic argument. What briefly is saying is like this, that you have a general principle where it says you should not practice any violence any which way. Try to have an attitude of complete non-violence. And then you have a specific rule for a violence. Now, when you are doing this violence, okay, Is the general principle of non-violence being withdrawn? Is there any such mention that no, the general principle doesn't apply here? It applies in all other cases except when you are having violence like this. Of course, the Mimamsaka will argue later like that. But he's saying there is no specific mention that it where it applies, where it doesn't apply. Okay, where you are doing any hingsa, it doesn't say somewhere that this is this particular hingsa which is for that specific yaga, and therefore the anartha, the moral the moral doubt, the limitation, the constraint which is emerging, which is anarthaka because you are killing somebody, which is a bad thing, which is evil act, that this particular thing doesn't emerge. You cannot talk like this, and therefore any act of violence, even though it may be mentioned anywhere, you should not do it. That is broadly is what is arguing. Okay. Because this violence is meant for a specific yaga. This violence is not per se meant to give you any swarga prapti or anything. This is part of a yaga. So it's a mean thing to do. And then the Purushartha says, don't be violent towards anyone. It's in your interest. So it is for Purushartha. And therefore, that is more powerful. Okay. Therefore, you should not do it. That is what he's saying. Now, there is another such mention in the Veda about a avichara karma. Avichara is trying to do some ritual to kill somebody. Now, there is something called a Shiena Yaga. The Shena Yaga doesn't mean you will sacrifice a Shena Pakhi. Shena is actually an eagle kind of a bird. Now, this eagle name is given to that Yaga because the way the eagle flies very high, but suddenly comes down when it sees the prey and picks up that prey. If you do this Yaga, if you have an enemy who's troubling you, you can get rid of him by doing these fire rituals. That is what the Veda says. Okay? At the same time, it's also mentioned that avichara karma, any activity to cause hurt or damage or violence or murder of somebody else, it is anarthaka. It's anartha hetuka. So it's definitely going to cause you great papa. So the text is kind of confusing you. He's saying, look here, Siena Yaga you can do to kill somebody, but remember, if you kill, you'll be papa. You will do papa and you'll go to hell. Now, why you want to do it? There'll be some debate on it. The whole idea in the Vedas, it is like this. I mean, that's what we have been explained in the Mimamsa philosophy. When a person is extremely violent, he wants to engage in an act of murder or homicide. He wants to kill someone because he's very angry. So he picks up his gun and is going to kill him. Then what happens is the priest who is there, he says, where are you going? I'm going to kill that guy. He says, but what is the need of carrying the gun and going there? It's very risky. There are other ways to do it. It's much easier. What is that? What is that other way? He said, we'll do a Shena Yaga. Your life shall not be in danger. No police can capture you because there is no way scientifically to prove that you are killing anyone. I'll chant some mantras and you will do a Shena Yaga. Once you do this fire ritual, that fellow will die. How? It's written in the Vedas. Really, this fellow agrees to sit in that ritual called a Shena Yaga. When he sits there, the Shena Yaga, the main karma cannot start. You have to do Sankalpa, you have to chant and invoke a lot of gods and goddesses. So this fellow who is very angry, he sits in the Yaga and listens to a lot of Sanskrit mantras. The idea is that he asks, what are these mantras? Now, this means that you are thanking sun, moon, earth, mother earth, you are thanking your parents, and you are doing a lot of pujas and stuff like that before you do that avichara karma to kill the enemy. But this fellow is undergoing psychological changes. His anger subsides. And then what he's asking, he says, so what are the other things that are there in the Vedas? He said, we also have Upanishads. You can also do some good karmas, and there are a lot of things to do. You can do for Antakarna Shuddhi, early morning, some Agnihotra. And he says, so why am I not doing it? No, you never came to me. If you come to me, I can help you pick those karmas. You can do it. Then he loses interest. He said, okay, stop this avichara karma. You think that I don't have to kill him, but I can go to Swarga. Is that what you're saying? No, yes, you can go to Swarga. You don't have to kill anyone. So he abandons that particular yaga because that particular desire to kill has lost his influence on him. So he stops that avichara karma. He starts some Santi mantras, and the priest slowly takes him back. And the game plan is all arranged by his wife or mother because they don't want their son or their husband to get into all these negative activities because that will basically land him in hell. The wife is wise, she knows it. The mother knows it. So this fellow then becomes a nice guy after some time and he's doing alima Gayatris and starts reading Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, which is very good. That is the basic idea. But the Veda clearly mentions that you can do the avichara karma. The result is it is going to give you some anarthas. Okay. Now there is some discussion even on that. Now, the Sankhya philosopher is trying to argue like the Syena Yaga is Veda Vihita, prescribed by the Vedas, but is giving you anartha hetu, is the cause of some bad purushartha. It will land you in hell. Similarly, some of the nitya karmas, where there is a reference to certain violence, some violent rituals, are also anartha hetuka. And therefore, a person who is interested in self realization should dump not only kamya karmas, but he should also drop those nitya karmas where there is any mention of violence. So nitya karma should also be dropped. He should go and start doing kriya yoga and a bhakti yoga. He'll go and sit in meditation and he'll join different kind of programs. Maybe study Vedanta, not do any activities. The Siddhanti will here explain and make it easy for all of us to understand. Yes, Vedanta and Bhakti and meditation and Raja Yoga are excellent. But don't you forget, because of the way you are now, the combination, the proportionality of the presence of Sattva, Tamas, and Rajas in you, if you drop all activities and try to sit in meditation, try to chant the name of God, or do a few asana pranayama, you are not going to go too far. You will be pulled down by these powerful tamasic and rajasic forces. So you need to first clean your house. And that house cleaning exercise involves one thing called nishkama karma without phalasanga, no palakamana and no asanga, no involvement. That is the basic theme here. But we will have some academic discussion and we will do it because we are completing this, so we'll not leave some part of it away. Nisedha nahi purushasya anartha hetu hingsa ityabhitam na katvartha hingsa. We have done that. Sarvam dustameva. Then for all karmas, nitya or kamya, we should not do it. We should be jnanis. We should do yoga. We should do jnana yoga. That is what the Sankhya guy is saying. Vihitasya api nisidhatvam. Nisiddhasya api vihitatvam syenadivat upapannam eva. जहां पे विहित है वो भी निषिद्ध है. कैसे? सेन याग में विहित है, that is prescribed. There is an injunction in the Vedas, but Veda itself clarifies it's not free from moral problem. You go, you kill that guy by chanting that mantra, but you'll go to hell. Then nisiddhasya api vihitatvam. What is that nisiddha vakya? Mahinsyat sarvabhutanam. You don't try to practice violence towards anyone. He says this. This is a Nisiddha Vakya. One should not be violent, but that is actually a positive injunction. Try to be non-violent. That is what is provided for. That is what is advised there. That is what is arguing. It's a very nice argument. Okay, and then what else he say? Sienadivat upapannam eva. Like in Siena Yaga, vihit bhi hai, lekin samajhne wala nahi karega. An intelligent guy will not be swayed away by whatever is written in Veda regarding the avichara karma. He shall not get into it because he knows it's like exercising the nuclear option. You can kill your enemy, but essentially you are killing yourself because nuclear wars can never be won. It's like that. यथा ही सेनेन अभिचरन् yajeta. So that is the Sena Yaga. Syenena. Syenena means what? Syenena means not with a eagle bird you try to sacrifice. No, not that way. Syenena means Syena Yagena Avicharan Yajeta Yaga Karo. By having this whole methodology of Syena Yaga. That is a Namadhyatvam in Vimansa Darsana. Ityadi Avichara Vidina. This whole practice of eliminating an enemy, Avichara. Bihitopi, even though it's provided for, it's stated in the Vedas, Senadihi na hinsyat sarva bhutani. Na hinsya sarva bhutani, that sentence is a general injunction, it stands. It's a Nisiddha Vakya, having positive connotation. Iti निषेध विषयत्वाद अनर्थ हेतु एव. निषिद्ध विषय हो गया शेन याग. वो कह रहा है कि हिंसा मत करो और शेन याग में आप हिंसा कर रहे हैं. तो जो निषिद्ध वाक्य है, प्रतिषिद्ध विषय है, उसके अंदर आप घुस रहे हैं. अतः अनर्थ हेतु कहा, यू शुड नॉट डू इट बिकॉज इट्स गोइंग टू कॉज हार्म टू यू. तद दोष सहिष्णुर एव च राग द्वेषादि वशीकृतस्य तत्र अधिकार एवं ज्योतिष्ठमादौ अपि. So the Sankhya guy is saying, look here, then some person will still do the Sena Yaga. And why he'll do it? It's not because Veda is mentioning it. He's already angry. What is the pravartaka? What is the motivating factor? His hatred for someone else. He's angry with somebody else. That's why he's just making use of Vedas to justify his anger and try to do some rituals through which he can eliminate that enemy. Why he's doing it? Because of that ragadi dosha. There is already a kind of an emotional turmoil in him because of which he's doing it. The Shastra Vakya is not the motivating factor. Actually, Shastra makes it very clear, if you do it, you will go to hell. But he still does it. Similarly, he's saying the Yotistamadi, even though they are Nitya Karmas, you have Pasu Alavanam, elimination of some kind of an animal, and I don't want to do it because I'm a Vaishnava. Why should I do it? No, not those kind of rituals. I'll do my Mahamantra, I'm happy. And therefore, he's saying Jyotishthamadu api tathaja uktam Mahabharate. He's a good, you see, Madhusudana Saraswati was one of the greatest Vaishnavas. So he's very wise. He'll give us the Shastra at the same time, he's bringing in all the counter arguments. Japastu sarva dharme bhyaha paramo dharma uchyate. Dharma means all the rituals. So far, Mimamsa Darshana is concerned. Chodana lakhyano artho dharmaha. If there is a pravartana vakya, you should do it. That artha, for swarga, for anything you want to do, that is what is called dharma. So dharma for them is commitment of certain rituals. For a traditional karmakandi Veda, Veda expert. Okay. So what he's saying, japastu sarva dharmebhya paramo dharma uchyate. So this is being contradictory here. That the rituals that you are doing among all these dharmas, japa is the ultimate dharma, taking the holy name. Ahingsaya hi bhutanam japa yajna pravartate. How can you do japa yajna? How can you do mahamantra? By hurting others, by doing avichara karma, by killing birds, by killing animals, by killing fish. No, by doing non-violence towards everyone. And that is, in fact, the heart of Vaishnava Dharma, that they strictly prescribe vegetarian food intake. I mean, that practice. Why? Because look at the sentence. It is said in the Mahabharata that you want to do Mahamantra Japa, you will get results only when you are non-violent. You cannot do Japa and please God when you are actually taking non-veg food. You could extend that argument like that. Again, Manusmriti also says this. Japyena evatu sansiddhet brahmano natra sangsayah. So if you do japa, that chanting, sacred chanting, take the holy name, this brahmana, so a wise guy, he definitely succeeds in his spiritual sadhana. Kuryat anyad na va kuryan. और कोई काम करे ना करे. कुर्यात अन्यत न वा कुर्यात. Whether he does anything else, japa, dana, dharma, punya, any kind of rituals, he does it or not, makes no difference. He is doing the chanting of holy names. Maitro Brahmana Uchyate, and that fellow is dharmika and he is a good, great friend to have. Maitraha Brahmana Uchyate, and therefore, iti badata maitrim ahinsam prasansata hinsayam dustatvam eva pratipaditam. Now, you have to do any ritual, but one advice, do japa yajna, and the best thing you can do is practice maitri, practice loving kindness, practice compassion. So only two things, take the holy name and practice love. Don't you think this Manusmriti, this sentence, in fact, is much more intense than any Christian adage? It talks about taking the holy name and practicing compassion and love, Maitri. And he's saying that guy is called the right kind of a Brahmin. If you are taking the holy name and you are practicing love and kindness, you are the best Brahmin. That is what he's saying. Maitro Brahmana Uchyate. Iti badata maitrim ahimsa. That Maitri is what? Is non-violence. Prasansata hinsayaha dushtatvam eva pratipaditam. So obviously, so far hinsa, any kind of, whether it's ritualized violence or it's just secular violence, extremely sinful. Antakarana suddhi cha idrishena gayatri japadina. And you want to do purification, why do you have to do nitya karma? You do gayatri japa, isn't it? It's a great Vedic mantra. Sutaram upapatshyate. And therefore, very quickly it will give you results. Hinsadi dosa dushtam jyotistamadi nityam karma dosa sahishnunam snenadikam iva karmadhikarinam api tyajyam. So he's saying, even if you are a karmadhikari, okay, not a problem. Get up early in the morning, take a bath, bow down to the sun and do your Gayatri mantra. That is good enough. You don't have to do these Dasa Punnamasa, Jyotishtama and kill animals. No, why do you have to do it? The Hingsadi Doso Dushtam. They are corrupted by violence. And therefore you drop them. So these kind of Nitya Karma, Dosa Sahishnuna. So are you ready to tolerate this sort of limitations? No, you want to go beyond limitations, so drop them. That is what he says. Iti prapte brumaha. Now, the traditional Kumarila Bhattamatta, which is Mimamsa Darshana, but you know the Vedantis always kind of take Kumarila Bhatta to be the right advice whenever it comes to Vyavaharika rituals, normal day-to-day life, they take the Mimamsa Mata. When it comes to Jnana Yoga, they take the Upanishad. That is the difference. So they say, Iti prapte brumaha, na katvartha hingsa anartha hetuhu, vidhir spriste nisedha anavakasat. He's saying, once there is an injunction in the Vedas that it is a vidhivakya, so you cannot say there is any scope for nishedha. Like, for example, I'll tell you. It is said that if elders are sitting, a younger lady or a boy cannot cross over. So there are people sleeping, okay? And then there are people sleeping and there is a room. Just imagine there is a party, there is a marriage function or something, and there are a lot of people sleeping. The daughter-in-law of the house, her baby is also sleeping in the corner of that room. And there are 5, 6 people are sleeping, including her husband's elder brother, her father-in-law, her mother-in-law, her husband's elder sister. Imagine it's a large joint family. Her baby is lying next to her mother-in-law in the extreme corner of that room and it's crying. Okay? Now, this lady has to cross over all these people to pick up her baby, maybe change the diapers, maybe feed the baby. If she doesn't do it, the baby is going to cry aloud. Everybody is going to wake up. Okay? And everybody is going to be dissatisfied and angry with her. So, what is the general advice taught to her by her own mother and by her mother in law? I'm sorry, there is patriarchy and all that, but your baby is your responsibility. So she has to go. It's a little baby, 3 months old. She doesn't understand. This little baby doesn't understand. This is a marriage party, too many people sleeping. I'm not sleeping next to my mom. I'm sleeping next to my grandmother. Why? Because my mom has to serve a lot of people and it's a big party. She has some responsibilities. I should not cry. No, the baby has started crying. She's sending signal. Mama, come pick me up. It's time for feeding. I'm hungry. I don't bother about all your social responsibility. Now, what does this mother do? Will she not cross over these people, walk through them, and pick up the baby quickly? But she's violating certain things. You should not cross over your elders. That's a Nisheda Vakya. What is the Vidhi Vakya? Your baby is your responsibility. Now, Kumarila Bhatta is saying, when there is a Vidhi Vakya, there is no avakasa for a Nishedha. It's clearly mentioned your baby is your responsibility. So she has to do it. And in the morning they'll say, how did you do it and all, but she can explain. I hope everyone understands. If they don't, no problem. The baby has to be picked up, the diaper needs to be changed, and the baby needs to be fed, and the baby goes back to sleep. Everybody's happy. Similarly, he's saying Vidhis priste nishedha anavakasad. Once there is a statement and it's related to an injunction, you then cannot imagine that there is some pratishedha there. There is an element of prohibition just because there is a reference to some hingsa or something. And there is a general vakya saying that you should not practice violence. That is the argument. Tatha hi vidhina valavad ichha visaya sadhanata bodhorupam pravartanam kurvata anartha sadhane tat anupapattehe swavisayasya pravartana गोचरस्य अनर्थ साधनत्व अभावो अपि अर्थात आक्षिप्यते. So very briefly what he's saying is, let's imagine there is some sort of anartha hetuta. What is the anartha hetuta? The daughter-in-law is going to cross over some elderly people, which is against the etiquette. That is the anartha hetuta. But that is removed by a powerful injunction that the baby is the responsibility of the mother till the baby is 1 years of age or 2 years of age. So that is the pravartana thing. And therefore, he has to anyway do. And then balavat ichha visaya sadhanata bodhurupam pravartanam. And he's forcefully vidhina by the very injunction. She's forced to accept the responsibility to feed her baby. And therefore, this whatever anartha hetuta is being derived, is being inferred by referring to some other advice, some social etiquette, some advice that is removed. That is, what is in akshipyate, that is removed. That is kind of that nirakarana happens. Tena vidhi visayasya na anarthahityam yujyate. Therefore, if there is a positive injunction, don't try to imagine there is something wrong with it. That's what he's saying. Nahi kratvarthatvam sakhyad vidyartha. Now, he is making a slight academic distinction between vidyartha and katvartha. Now, how do you explain that? Now, you want to make custard. So you need to bring some milk. Now, the milk is required for the custard. But why the custard is required? Because custard is the favorite dish, and there is a particular ritual where you have to make custard and offer to God and give it to your child. It's the baby's birthday. Okay? What is the Purushartha? What is the purpose of the whole drama? To make the baby happy. It's a birthday, needs to be celebrated. What is the Kratvartha? What is just for that particular ritual? What is required? You need some milk. You need some custard powder. Now, is it so important that you bring milk only from the neighbor shop or from that mall, or it should be given by the milk boy? Why? Any which way you do it. And anyway, that is a subordinate requirement. What is the main requirement? The Purushartha. The boy whose birthday it is wants to have custard which is offered to God and distributed among all the guests at home, among all the children. The boy has required from his mother, his father, that Papa and Mama, this is my birthday. This is a special request from my friends that you have to serve them chocolate and custard. That is the main thing. Why? Because everybody loves that. That is the Purushartha. Everybody wants to be happy. You want to facilitate that. Therefore, this Pasu Alavana Rupi Himsa, that particular act of violence, is for the Kratu. It's not Vidyartha. What is the goal of the Vidhi? That Nitya Karma you are doing for Antakarna Shuddhi. It's incidental that there is some element of violence there. That is what is the argument here. Yena virodha na syad kintu pravartana eva. And therefore, because it's a very subordinate clause, that there is a partial reference to some kind of a violence, that will not stop somebody from doing his nitya karma or that particular yaga. Okay, some problem, but let's do it because yaga is very important. प्रवर्तना कर्म भूतातु परस प्रवृत्ति पुरुषार्थम एव विषय कुर्वति. What is the purushartha? What is the ultimate objective? That is what is discussed when we are doing any karma. क्वचित् कृतम् अपि पुरुषार्थ साधनत्वेन पुरुषार्थ भावम् आपन्नं विषय करोति इति अन्यत्. So it is quite possible that that is for that particular karma there is something that could be central to it, but ultimately all the time it's purushartha, the general objective of that which is important. Purusha pravrittischa valavad ichha upadhana dasayam jayamana na bhavyasya artha hetutam akshipati na va anartha hetutam pratikshipati kintu yatha praptam eva अवलंबते बलवत् इच्छा विषय स्वतः एव प्रवृत्तेः स्वर्गादौ विधि अनपेक्षणात्. It's another academic argument. Let me simplify it. Now, there is a schoolboy and he has completed his 10th examination. If he asks his mother, Mama, can I go for a film with my friends? I mean, that was the only mode of entertainment in India a few years back. That's why I'm giving that example. So he wants to go out and see a movie with his friends. He knows he'll never get any permission from the father. The father will say, no, I want to check how have you performed in the examination. So he quietly has some sort of understanding. Mother says, well, I cannot say yes or no. Why don't you talk to your dad? What does the son do? He says, yes, Mama, I have talked to my dad. And he goes to see the movie. Right? Now, there is this injunction that you shall never go out of home after 6 p.m. without explicit permission from the father. That is a rule in that household. Everybody follows it. The son, what he does, he goes out and sees the movie, comes back at 9 p.m. And the papa is furious, but he tries to persuade him. He says that all of us are gone, my exams are over, blah, blah, blah. So there is a balavad ichha. There's a powerful desire to do it. The general injunction is the mother should be kept informed every time you go out of house. He has done it. You cannot stay out of house without explicit permission of the father, of the parents together after 6 p.m. This is another injunction. He has violated it. Why? Because he has lied to his mother. So what the Shastra says is, once a person is powerfully moved by the desire to go to Swarga, it's quite possible that there is some reference to some violence. And that reference to violence is in contradiction with a general advice that we should be non-violent. But aapko Swarga jana hai, any which way you want to go to Swarga, then you will do it. You will say, yes, a little immoral, but what to do? It's like, I mean, it happens, right, in corporates. So there is a colleague who is perhaps underperforming a little, but she's pregnant. Okay? Underperforming a little. She's pregnant, maybe 3-4 months pregnant, and you somehow know it. Okay? And you are the reporting manager. And you know she's an underperformer, but in another 3 months, because it's India, they get 6 months leave, paid leave, because of pregnancy. She's going to go on leave and get the money, but she's not performing very well. But she needs the money, you know it. You know she needs medical care, she needs health insurance, she needs a salary, you know all that. But you have found a bright person waiting in the wings for that job, and it's critical for your project work. You have to deliver, you have a deadline, and you want your promotion because you are in conflict with another guy who's going to take your job. What do you do there? You quietly fire that girl. You know, if I put her in CPR or fire her, she's going to be in some problem. But you know, if I don't fire her, it's quite possible that I might get fired. I may not be able to deliver it because anyway she's going to go on leave after another 3 4 weeks. So you fire her. There's an element of violence there. There is an element of immorality there. But you justify by saying that by holding on to your job, by delivering it in time, by getting more business for the company, you can hire her back at a later date. It's quite possible you might do it. But you do that violence, and I mean, it's not free from moral compunction. It's not free from some kind of a moral deficit. There is an element of ethical deficit there where you take that decision. Similarly, he's saying that when a person is powerfully moved by the desire to go to Swarga, even if there are some kind of a anartha hituta, some kind of problem, he'll still might do it. Okay? Ata, then he's saying, Jatha praptam eva balambate. Because that raga is already having. That desire to do that he's already having. So he doesn't pay much of an attention here. Okay. Ata eva bihita sena falasyapi. If you do the bihita sena yaga, what is the phala? You will have some papa. You know it. Even then. Satru baddha rupasya avicharasya anartha hetutvam upapadyate eva falasya vidhijanya pravritti visayatva abhavat. Okay. So when you are still doing the Siena Yaga, this prabriti you have to do that avichara karma. You know there is some moral deficit, there is some problem, you are going to commit a sin. Why you do it? Is it because of the Vedic injunction? No. The actual motivation for doing this is coming out of your strong desire to punish a guy. He has hurt you, he has humiliated you. That's why you are conspiring to harm him. Ritually you want to get rid of him. So it has nothing to do with vidhijanya pravritti vishayatva. It is not vidhijanya pravritti vishaya. It is ragajanya. Ragataha prapta. By your very desire you want to do it. So you are just quoting the Shastra to justify it. There is a certain law which helps you, but you already have a strong desire to do it. Okay? So vidhijanya pravritti vishayam dhatvarth rupam karam pravartana alambate. ताच अनर्थेतुं न विषयीकरोति विशेष विधिवादितं सामान्य निषेध वाक्यम राग द्वेषादि मूला कृत्वर्थ लौकिक हिंसा विषयम is another, he's making another academic point here, that whenever you are doing vidhijanya pravritti vishaya, like for example you use swarga kama yajeta, that is as per injunction and therefore you are doing it. Okay, Dhatvarth Rupam Yajeta. So there is that yaj, that dhatu is there, and therefore is referring to that. Upam Karam Prabartana Alambate. What is that Karana? What is required to go to Swarga? That yajana, that dhatu, that yajana dhatu, yaj dhatu is there. Therefore, you are saying, so there is a linktva, there is a particular pravartana, why you want to do it. Because there is a prescription. You should do it. That should word is justifying that you should do this particular activity. Dhatvartha is akhyatatva in the Mimamsa Darsana. So from that Dhatvartha, you know what to do. You have to do a yaga. प्रवर्तना आलम्बते साच अनर्थ हेतु न विषय करते अनर्थ के बारे में नहीं सोच रहा, स्वर्ग के बारे में सोच रहा, अतः वो करता है इति विशेष विधिवादितम सामान्य निषेध वाक्यम. Okay, so Vishesha Vidivaditam Samani Nishedha Vakyam Raga Dvesadimula Katvartha Lokika Hinsa Visayam. So what happens is that there is a particular uh, Vidhi Badhita, that it is kind of prohibited. Okay, so even though it is already prohibited. It's mentioning clearly, if you do Shena Yaga, you're going to pay a price for that. And then, because you have Raga Dvesha, Samanya Nishida Vakyam, and also the violence you should not do for anyone. It's all mentioned. Still, you are kind of doing it. Okay? So that is how it is mentioning. Then, Tena, Shena Agnishomiyor Vaishyamyat Upapannam Adushtatvam Jyotishtamaadehe. So he's essentially trying to draw a distinction between the Shena Yaga, which is Ragataha Prapta. You are doing it because of your own anger, emotional turmoil, and you are doing Hingsa. That's a bad thing. Nitya karma samhingsa, incidental, and that is much different from that. But here you are thinking about Swarga, and it's a Nitya karma. That is a Kratvartha hingsa. You don't want to deliberately kill that goat or anything. You want to do the yaga. Incidentally, that goat is sacrificed. Therefore, the cases are completely different. That is the summary of it. विधिस्पृष्टस्यापि निषेधविषयत्वे षोडशीग्रहणस्य अति अनर्थ हेतुत्वापतिर्नातिरात्रे षोडशिनं गृह्णाति इति निषेधात्. This is another academic point he's making. There is this Atiratra Yaga. So in that Atiratra Yoga, Sodashi here is not a 16-year-old girl. Sodashi Patra, there is a particular pot, a container. So he's saying, Natiratre Shodashinam Grinhati. There is another Vakya which is saying, Atiratre Shodashinam Grinhati. So you are a little confused. Atiratra Yaga में षोडशी नाम का पात्र यानी container, that pot. So whether you should, you should receive it or you shouldn't receive it, is used or not used. That is the point of difference or argumentation. He's saying there is a Nisheda Vakya. So you will either do it or you will do it. Either way, you are getting trapped. If you do it, you're following one, but somewhere else you're violating it. If you don't do it, okay, you are following some rule, Nisheda Vakya, but the Vidhi Vakya, that you should receive it, that is getting violated. So there is a bit of a debate there in Mimamsa Darshan. That's what I'm saying, that there is a Nisheda Vakya, still you have to do one of the decisions. Whether you accept it or you don't accept it. Either way, you are violating one particular alternative. Tasma kinchid etaditi bhattam darshanam. And therefore, Kumarila Bhatta says, the Sankhya Mata saying that all Nitya karmas, because of some incidental violence, should be dropped, is not a very strong point. Now, Prabhakara is another fellow who was the disciple of Kumarila Bhatta but was very, very intelligent. And therefore, Prabhakara is referred to as Guru. So, Prabhakaram means Prabhakarasya matam. That's Prabhakaram tu darshanam phalasadhane ragatah eva prabhutti siddher nan yogasya pravartakatvam. He's saying that phalasadhane, sena yaga or whatever. Actually, this phala, you want to do it because of your own craving. And therefore, why are you holding the Vedic injunction responsible there? So there is no niyogasya pravartakam, that niyoga vakya, that injunction is not responsible for the violence. Tena, shenasya ragajanya pravritti vishayatvena. Shenaya kyun kar raha hai wo? Why is he doing it? He's doing it to kill his enemy. And he's killing his enemy because he studied Vedas. No, he's angry, he's upset, and therefore he wants to do it. विधे औदासीन्यात् न तस्य अनर्थ हेतुत्वं विधिना प्रतिक्षिप्यते. And he's saying that, look here, the vidhi here has no role to play because he's doing it because of his own emotional problems. Agni shomya hinsayam tu kratvanga bhutayam phalasadhanatva abhavena. That particular pasu alavana rupa hingsa, a bit of violence is happening. That is Kratvartha, meant to make the particular yaga successful. What is the goal? Swarga Gamana, Antakarna Suddhi. So the Hingsa has no direct relevance here. It's incidental. And therefore, again, it has nothing to do with the Vidhi Vakya. Okay? Phalasadhanatva bhavena raga bhavat vidhireva pravartakaha. So that fellow is not interested to kill that animal. He's interested to do the yaga. And why he's interested? Because the Veda says it. So you cannot compare them. Sacha swo vishayasya anartha hetutam pratikhipati iti pradhanbhuta hingsa anartha janayati na kratvartha iti na hingsa mishrattvena jyotishtomader dushtatvam iti samam eva. So what he's saying is that anartha hetuta, a little bit of violence which is there, that is taken care by the main goal of this vidhi, because it's either to go to heaven or to do your nitya karma. There is an incidental violent act, but you are not interested in doing that violence. You are unwilling, just doing it because that's mentioned there. You cannot violate what is written there. You are no way involved, and therefore it doesn't do any anartha janana. It doesn't create any anartha, as in case of Shena Yaga. So Bhatta and Prabhakara both are kind of agreeing that Nitya Karma should not be dropped. You should do it. But there is some difference in their opinion. That also he explains. Etavan matretu vishesha chodana lakshana artho dharmaha. So Kumarila Bhatta Sahab is Mimamsa Darsana we are discussing, because that's how he is going. So we have to refer to it. Chodana lakshano artho dharmaha. Iti atra arthapada vyavartyattvena adharmatvam shenadehe prabhakaramate. We are saying chodana lakshano artho dharmaha. That is the Mimamsa Darsana of Jaimini. Okay. Now in Shena Yaga, it is adharma. And therefore, this Vidhivakya cannot apply there. So you cannot consider that to be dharma. That is what Prabhakara says. Bhattamate tu Shena phalasya eva अभिचारस्य अनर्थ हेतुत्वाद अधर्मत्वम. इसे जो अभिचार कर्म है उसका अधर्मत्व है, विधि में कोई तकलीफ नहीं है. शेनस्य तु विहितस्य, शेन याग जो विधि पूर्वक बताया गया है, समित साधनस्य धर्मत्वमेव. So we can also call that dharma. It's a vihita vakya. We have to do it. That is what he's saying. You don't have to do it. You are doing it because of your raga. But the vidhi vakya is there. We do not reject it. But Prabhakar says, get rid of it. That is a controversial item. Arthapada vyavartyatvam tu kalanjavakanader nisiddhatvasya eva iti falatah anarthahetutvena tu sistanam syanado na dharmatvena vyavaharaha. Those who are intelligent people, they will understand. They are intelligent guys. So it says kalanjam na bhakke. One should not take meat mixed with that arrow. If you have killed that animal, there may be some poison is there. Kalanjam can also make red onions. So you should not take it. That is mentioned. And therefore, people will not take it. So you avoid taking it. So the intelligent people will not do Shena Yaga because there is some reference to Anartha Hituta in the Avichara Karma. Okay? Then, what is actually good thing to do? And he's quoting here. Phalatupi ya yatakarma na anarthena anubadhyate. कर्म में तो लिखा है वेद में करना है, लेकिन उसका फल भी अनर्थ का हेतु ना हो. You can go and play cricket. You can go and play cricket, but you might get hurt. If there's a bouncer, it hits your nose. You're not wearing helmet. Even if you're wearing it, you might get injured. Something. One batsman died in Australia. So there is phalatah anartha hetuta is there, like gambling. You might make profit, but you could be a beggar. So phalatah there is anartha hetuta. But if that anartha hetuta is not a binding constraint, then kevala priti hetutva tadharma iti kathyate. Only it gives you happiness and pleasure and good things. Then only it's called dharma. If there is some kind of adharma or anartha hetuta in the phala of that injunction, then you cannot call it dharma. Now, so far the Nyaya philosophers are concerned, he is also discussing them. And I will not, okay, we have crossed the time. I'll just finish it in one sentence. I'll not get into the details. Tarkikas are saying three things. That what is dharma? What is one? It should be kriti sadhya. You should be able to do it. Now you want to do a Aswamedha Yaga. Do you have all the money? You don't have. So it's not kriti sadhya. That cannot be your ichha visaya. Then artha hetutvam. There is some purushartha. So there is some good which is offering. Then anartha ahetutvam. Remember three things. One thing, it should be, you should be able to do it. Number two, that this is going to give you some positive results. Number three, it should not give any negative results. That will be called dharma. No negative outcomes, only positive outcomes, and it should be doable by you. That is what is called dharma. That is vidyartha. Then it's a good injunction. Tathakatvartha hinsayam sakhya nisedha bhavat prayaschitat prayaschitta anupadesacha. Now, in this Jyotishtama karma, there is some alavana, pashu alavana. Is there a vidhi that you have to do prayaschitta? In case of Shyana Yaga, they are saying if you do it, there will be some prayaschitta you have to do because you are going to kill somebody. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. There is no penitentiary injunction to do compensate for some papa you are doing. And sakhyat nishedha, you should not do it. That is also not there. Therefore, the nitya karmas are things you can do even though there is some kind of incidental violence that is not anartha hetu. However, in kind of syenadi yaga, sakhyat eva nisedhat prayaschita upadesatcha, who clearly says Yana Yaga you should avoid. If you do because of raga, because of your craving, you want to punish your friend. Remember, you have to go on fasting for some time, you have to do some dana dharma, and you should compensate his wife or anything. You know, all kinds of, you have to go into Vedas as to what kind of prayaschitta karma is prescribed there. And therefore, that is the artha, that is artha hetutva avagamacha. So anartha hetutva avagamat Tavana matram tata vidhina na bhatyate. And therefore, by vidhi, you cannot say Shena Yaga should be done. It's not dharma because there is anartha hetuta. It's clearly reflected there. So, Upanishadestu, the Vedantis, Bhattam eva darsanam vyavahare prayena avalambitam. By the Vedantis, during Vyavahara Dasa, they follow Kumarila Bhatta. तथा च बादरायण प्रणीतम सूत्रम अशुद्धम इचितेत न शब्दात. So if you think it is ashuddha, no, because it is mentioned. So ज्योतिष्टोमादि कर्म अग्निशोमिय हिंसादि मिश्रितत्वेन दुष्टम इति चेत न, क्योंकि उसमें थोड़ा हिंसा है, वो गलत है, उसको नहीं करना चाहिए, ऐसे कहो मत. अग्निशोम्यम पशुवालवेत इत्यादि विधि शब्दात इति अक्षरार्थः, बिकॉज उसमें विधि है. अशुद्धम इति चेत न, because there is a vidhi vakya sabdat, because it is clearly given as an injunction. Okay, now very broadly, I mean, there is a bit more all that he's saying, but it's not important. We'll look at it tomorrow. Broadly, what he's saying is that in Nitya Karma, it is quite possible that in certain kind of Nitya Karmas, there is some incidental violence. However, that doesn't become a ground for dropping all the Nitya Karmas. That is what is the traditional view here. But from a Vedantic standpoint, and in the context of our historical setting, would you like to do a particular karma where is some sort of a violence? Most likely, a lot of people would take the Sankhya position. You perhaps could drop those Nitya karmas where there is some violence, and maybe do Nitya karmas where there is no violence. We'll take it forward tomorrow. We've crossed the time limit. So I'll put an end to the YouTube. If you have any questions you can ask, or you can do the Santi Mantras.